Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer James and this is my assignment 2 for EFDN 899 Capstone Seminar. Today I'm presenting the key findings from my study which explores the question, what strategies help newcomer early childhood educators from diverse cultural backgrounds successfully adapt to their workplaces in Canada? So, this question is important because Canada's early childhood education sector is increasingly diverse, yet, newcomer educators often face unique challenges in navigating new cultural norms, workplace practices, and professional expectations. And I arrived at this research question because of my professional connection. When I first started working in early childhood education as a newcomer, everything felt new to me. The teaching style, the communication patterns, and even the expectations around how educators interacted with children. In the beginning, I struggled with knowing exactly how to respond during play, how to support conflicts among children, and how to communicate using a calm and child centered tone. I wanted to do well, but I realized I needed to see what high quality practice looked like in this new environment. So, one strategy that truly helped me adapt was modeling from a high performance educator in my center. The need for the study. In Chue and Frank's study, about 31% of early learning childcare workers had a non official language, neither English nor French, as their mother tongue, which is higher than the proportion in non ELCC occupations. These numbers show that newcomer immigrant educators are a significant and growing component of Canada's early childhood workforce. Cultural diversity of the workforce raises real adaptation challenges, not just for children and families, but for the educators themselves as they navigate a new professional context. High turnover underscores the importance of effective strategies for newcomer adaptation, not just from a social justice perspective, but also for workforce planning and quality of care. So, from these readings, I have formed four themes from across the research, which is learning and performance, employee engagement and belonging, cultural adaptation and relationship building, and four self awareness and reflective practices. Theme one is learning and performance by modeling high performance practice. This theme comes from the two paradigms of human resource development, as mentioned in Swanson, and other authors which I can relate to is Pacini, Ketchabaugh, and others, and Hay and others. Across these sources, a clear message appears that newcomer educators adapt best when learning is ongoing, collaborative, and grounded in real Canadian context. For example, Pacini, Ketchabaugh, and others emphasize learning circles, team reflection, and community based professional learning. These spaces give newcomers a chance to ask questions, learn Canadian pedagogical language, and understand expectations around child centered practice. Swanson reinforces that becoming a skilled educator requires modeling high performance behaviors. Expertise happens through guided practice, feedback, and observing what strong educators do in real classrooms. Swanson's work strengthens this theme by emphasizing that expertise is domain specific and does not automatically transfer across contexts or across borders or through different nations. In his explanation of expert performance, Swanson highlights that expertise is limited in its scope and elite performance does not transfer. Even when domains are seemingly very similar, there is very little transfer in proficiency from one domain to another. For newcomer early childhood educators, this means that even if they were highly skilled in their home country, their previous expertise may not directly transfer to the expectations, norms, or pedagogical practices of Canadian early childhood education. This is not a deficit in the educator. Rather, it is simply reflects that expertise is shaped by local knowledge, cultural expectations, and everyday problem solving required within a specific context. To support this process, newcomer educators should have opportunities to shadow senior educators. Hay and others add that institutions play a big role in supporting cultural outsiders through structured mentorship and diversity focused training. Observing and practicing high performance behaviors in these supportive environments accelerates adaptation. And going to the second theme, employee engagement and belonging, creating inclusive, participatory, and fair work environments is the second theme, which comes from the annotations of Confosi and Chue and Frank, who emphasizes how workplace culture and institutional policies directly influence newcomer adaptation. Confosi's research shows that educators are excluded from policy conversations. The workplace becomes disempowering, emotionally draining, and even toxic. Newcomer educators who are already navigating cultural transitions can feel especially silenced or objectified. This reduces engagement, limits belonging, and increases turnover. Chue and Frank's national study further highlights that systemic inequities such as wage gaps, unstable employment, and weak recognition of foreign credentials, these factors deeply affect newcomer educators' retention and sense of value in the sector. They found that fair wages, stable jobs, and recognition of immigrant qualifications significantly can improve long term engagement. This theme teaches us that adaptation isn't just an individual task, it is shaped by structural conditions. And when the workplace acknowledges educators' voice, respects their expertise, and creates fair conditions, newcomer educators can thrive. And from the third theme, which is cultural adaptation and relationship building, it supports through language, identity, and intercultural understanding. And it draws from the themes from Brown and others, Hay and others, and Doan in Boyd and Garvis. These authors highlight that cultural adaptation is deeply relational. Newcomers do not simply learn new skills, they must navigate new cultural expectations, communication styles, and workplace traditions. Brown and others identify that language difficulties, cultural mismatches, and lack of social support are major barriers for newcomers. Relationships, especially mentorship and peer support, make adaptation smoother. He and others emphasize that institutions must intentionally support these called cultural outsiders by offering cultural responsive field experiences, orientation, and language support. And Doan's work on teacher identity in the Canadian early childhood education context also reinforces that educator identity is shaped socially. Newcomer educators build confidence and belonging through supportive networks and culturally inclusive environments. This theme reminds us that adaptation is not about fitting in, it is about creating workplaces where diverse educators can belong while maintaining their cultural identity. And moving on to the fourth theme, self awareness and reflective practices. This fourth theme combines insights from Thiel and Hansen, Swanson, and Pacini, Ketchabau, and others. Here, the focus is the educator's internal development, self awareness, emotional engagement, and reflective practice. Thiel and Hansen show that educators who are emotionally engaged and confident tend to adopt more proactive learning behaviors. This sense of agency is critical for newcomers who must navigate unfamiliar systems. Swanson emphasizes that genuine expertise grows through self reflection, critical thinking, and active participation in learning. Passive adaptation is not enough, and newcomers must develop an agentic identity in the workplace. Pacini, Ketchaba, and others reinforce the role of reflective dialogue and critical inquiry in shaping educator identity and helping educators make sense of local expectations. This internal work helps educators not only adapt but also grow professionally and personally. And to summarize all the four themes, I will highlight the key practical strategies that helps newcomer early childhood educators successfully adapt to Canadian early learning workplaces. These strategies come directly from the four major themes of this research. The first set of strategies relates to learning performance and modeling high performance practice. Newcomer educators benefit greatly from having high performance role models in their centers, experienced educators who demonstrate child centered interactions, positive communication, and strong documentation skills. Co teaching opportunities will allow newcomers to learn side by side with skilled colleagues, making Canadian expectations visible and easier to internalize. Through guide practice, newcomers can safely try new skills with feedback and support, while reflective discussions such as learning circles help them process what they observe and connect it to their professional identity. The second group of strategies focuses on from employee engagement and belonging. Supporting newcomer educators means strengthening recognition of foreign credentials so their prior experience is valued. It also involves involving educators in policy and decision making, which can build confidence and reduces feelings of marginalization. Improving wages and job stability ensures newcomers can remain in the field long enough to grow. And finally, building workplaces cultures that respect diverse voices help newcomers feel welcomed, heard, and included. The third group of strategies centers on cultural adaptation and relationships, providing language and communication supports such as translation help or clear communication guidelines reduces barriers. Building intercultural mentorship relationships connects newcomers with someone who understands both Canadian norms and cultural diversity. Creating inclusive spaces that honor cultural identity allows educators to bring their whole selves into the workplace. And helping newcomers understand cultural expectations without erasing their background supports both adaptation and dignity. And the final group of strategies is about self awareness and reflective practice. Encouraging reflective journaling or dialogue helps newcomers understand their strength and growth areas. Supporting emotional engagement and self efficacy builds the confidence needed to take risk and grow professionally. Empowering newcomers to take ownership of their learning transforms them from passive learners into active contributors. And creating reflective learning communities promotes shared problem solving and collective growth. Together, these strategies show that adapting as a newcomer educator is not about changing who you are, it's being about supported, valued, and guided in a way that honors your identity while helping you thrive within the Canadian early childhood education community. These are my references, and I'm eagerly waiting to see the questions in the forum. Thank you.